Alright guys, almost a year ago now, the devs started putting some short stories on their official website. Now, I used to cover a lot of these. They've done many over the several years Guild Wars 2's been out, but this most recent slate, I didn't really touch. I have read them, but I didn't read them out with you guys, I didn't talk about them. And, well, to fill a little bit of time while we wait for episode 6, and especially considering that we're likely to go into expansion craze soon, I figured this is my last opportunity, really, to give it to you. So, I want to start reading this out for you guys. We'll probably be over a couple of videos. The series does now seem to be over. The devs haven't posted one for a long time, but this is Tyrian Travels. Today we'll at least go through chapter 1, and I think there's maybe 5 or 6. A couple of them in particular are really interesting and deal with stuff to do with the Tengu Wall, and it's a shame that the characters from Tyrian Travels haven't had more relevance on the actual in-game patches so far, but we'll see what you guys think. Hey, it's more lore, and lore that probably a lot of you guys have missed. So, Tyrian Travels, chapter 1, posted by Vicky, August 31st of last year. It all started at MomoCon, so they give a little bit of a description here. They say, at this year's MomoCon, narrative director Leah Hoyer, who, by the way, isn't even with the company anymore, she moved on to Telltale, I think, and narrative designer Ross Bealey hosted a panel on the fundamentals of narrative design for Guild Wars 2. With the help from the audience, at that panel, they created the basic concept for a new character. This character and her Moa will be traveling through some familiar territory. Read along in this series of stories to see the world through her eyes. So I don't know how much of this was meant to be important as much as just paying off on a panel they did, but there was some fun stuff to be had. So let's do it. We were late to the junk auction, properly known as the low-level amateur market annual sale, because Momo wanted to chase bugs. From the moment we set foot into Sorendra, you would have thought the ground had come alive. She stuck her big beak in the grass and all but tore her lead out of my hands. That was how I arrived at the last place I wanted to be. 15 minutes behind schedule, elbowing through throngs of attendees, wrestling and pleading with a bird 3 times my size. I like to tell myself I trained Momo well, but Moas are naturally skittish. By the time I coaxed her to her pen and started to unpack, she was making low, suspicious noises at the passing crowd. "You can chase all the bugs you want when we're done. You can chase them for a whole hour." I rushed to set up my invention, making a hasty check of the harness and case, and then slid it over Momo's head so the biothermal analyzer rested snugly over her breastbone. I ran a test. The 15-year estimate came up promptly, and the display was clear and readable. Trust me, I want this rigmarole over with as much as you do. Squawk! Momo ruffled her bright pink feathers, tilted her head to the side, and eyeballed a patch of grass, as though daring it to produce something living. Laughing at her made me feel a little bit better. For the first time, I was glad my PET wasn't flashy or complicated. Some of the other inventions up for sale were massive, with blinking lights and terminals. I'd nabbed a small station, far from the main walk, for cheap. It gave me less of a chance of being approached by a buyer, but I didn't really expect anyone to be interested in my invention anyway. A voice cut through the drone of the crowd. "Well, well, if it isn't the grass-fed disaster. I thought you'd given up, Vicky." Tawny. I took a deep breath before turning around. "Are you exhibiting today?" Tawny pushed her way to the front of my booth and gave me one of the cold, appraising looks I'd spent my school days dreading. Her hair was coiled in precise loops around her long ears, her sleek black and red coat decked out with the latest personal Magitech enhancements. It was probably too much to hope that she'd hit a rough spot after college, seen the error of her ways, and come looking to make amends. Buying, not showing, she wrinkled her nose. "Maybe I'm looking for gems in the rough, brilliant ideas before their time, ambitious solo projects bogged down by unreasonable ethical constraints, that sort of thing." I swallowed. "I haven't got any of those." "Shocking." She eyed Momo up and down. "Is that thing on the bird your invention? What is it?" I wanted to tell her to go chase a few bugs herself, but what if she was the only person who bothered to show any interest in buying? What if she was really curious about it? I stood up straight and adjusted the analyzer harness. Momo huffed. "This is the predictive existence tool," I said. It predicts the remaining existence of domesticated livestock." The name's a little forced. It tells you the animal's lifespan? My ears burned, but I went on with my spiel. It can help identify any unknown medical conditions by doing a full body examination of the... Momo, shh! Momo squawked and lunged for the grass again, tracking something. I tugged her back gently and I thought I heard Tawny snicker. Why don't you give me a demonstration, she said. If your bird will let you. Of course she will. Momo, stop. I adjusted the halter, smoothed Momo's feathers, and kept my head down while I started the PET. It beeped, trilled, and bathed Momo in a brief flash of violet light. Totally unnecessary for the analysis, but my mentor, Floxer, had suggested some theatrics. As you can see, this mower... I stopped short and stared at the display. That wasn't right. It couldn't be right. Tawny peered over my shoulder, reading the display. 1 year? That isn't right, I stammered. It should be 15 years, not 1. She's only a year old now, and I just tested the device. It must be a malfunction. She shook her head and tisked. How unfortunate. For a faulty prototype, I'll give you 1/5 of the asking price. I sat underneath a tree and watched the other amateur inventors clear the last of their unsold projects away. A few of them left in tears. I felt awful for even thinking it, but at least mine wasn't the only malfunctioning invention. It was a malfunction, I said to Momo, who tired herself out running through the grass after I handed the PET over to Tawny. She rested her head on my knee, and I pressed her tall crest feathers down to make them spring up again. Anyhow, there's always next year. Next year. My stomach sank like a lump of hard bread. What if it wasn't a malfunction at all? What if I'd doomed Momo to spending her last year on Tyria playing with her toys in the corner of Flox's lab while I beat my head against another invention just because it was easier to believe that my first completed project was broken? If this was one of the educational enhancement stories I'd read growing up, things would definitely turn out like that. Of course, the protagonists of those stories always had reasons to believe in their inventions. There are moa ranchers in Kryta, I said, thinking aloud. I scratched between Momo's eyes. They could give us a second opinion. I'd only ever seen paintings of Kryta, but the thought of travelling across a sea of grass under the open blue sky shook some of the gloom clouds from my cranium. I imagined Momo zooming through the fields, stretching her legs and basking in the sun. I'd always been too busy or too tired to take her anywhere interesting. My only hope for gaining any kind of scientific credibility in Ratasum was gone, and for barely enough money to pay my lab fees. I didn't even have enough coin to take a gate to Divinity's Reach, and if Momo was really hurt or sick... But she seemed to be in perfect health, and when I looked down at her, she warbled softly at me as if to say, "Adventure? Let's go." How about it, Momo? I hoped I sounded more confident than I felt. Do you want to go for a walk? And there you go, guys. That's the end of Tyrian Travels Chapter 1. Let me know what you thought of this. If you guys enjoyed it, then we will definitely go forward. As always, with posts like this, the devs did originally do some screenshots. Now, this isn't even a year old, but already one of the links to one of the screenshots they took is broken. So I'll see if I could source it anywhere else. It's called Vicky Super Sad, so we'll see what we can do there. I really don't remember how this concludes either. If you guys want to check out the description, you can read ahead without me and see how it goes. But I don't know whether they came to a final thing on the last chapter of this, or if indeed I even read that. Maybe I only got through like the first 5 or so. Well, we'll see. I'll put these videos up over the coming week or so. Should be fun. I haven't read anything for a while, and I love reading stories like this. Even if they don't have amazing impact on the core narrative, it's one of those things that does expand the world that little bit more, and they're fun to get into. So hopefully you guys enjoy. At the end of the day, I tend to just do videos of things I'm currently finding interesting, and well, this is it for now. So thanks, and I'll see you guys very shortly next time.